I wanted to talk about failure, or things that don't work out in this video. I was looking to cover the final steps of the animation that I have been progressively working on Deluxe Paint on the Amiga. The idea was to shade the image such that it looked like the light level changed in the car as it went past the streetlights on the expressway. Unfortunately, my first attempt, this one that you're going to see today, didn't work that well. I'll show you what went wrong and how I think I'll fix it. First of all, the animation is as it was when I left it off in the last video. I finished it up to the point where the hair and part of the clothing rippled and moved as if being blown by the wind passing through the open window of the car. The next steps were to restore the highlights on the edge of the hair across all of the frames of the character animation and then shade the interior of the car according to when it passed streetlights outside. The idea was that at present the car interior is very much as if lit by the streetlight shining in. To shade this, there are a few methods that I can employ in Deluxe Paint on the Amiga. The first is to convert the animation to something called hand mode and then shade each frame individually. Hand mode is an Amiga special mode that allows all of the Amiga's 4096 colours to be used on screen at once. There is also a later hand mode called Ham 8, which only the last Amigas released by Commodore support. This allows for just over 262,000 colours on screen at once, but I want this animation to work for all Amigas. The downside to this mode is that it will reduce the fidelity of the pixel art, and it could run a bit too slow, let alone be a very slow process of shading, but it would also in theory allow much more subtle shading beyond a simple shadow and light approach. The fidelity would be lost due to the way that hand mode works. If you're interested in finding out more about hand mode, I made a video all about these modes, which you can watch on my channel. The next option relates to Deluxe Paint 5 only. You can create multiple palettes for an animation, allowing the palette to change even on a frame by frame basis. The downside to this again is the slowness of creating and subtly changing palettes, but the real problem is that the outside scene uses some of the colours that are also used in the car's interior, meaning dimming the palette for the shadow effect would mean also affecting the colours on the outside as well. Another small side effect is that being as this is only supported by Deluxe Paint 5, there are very few applications that actually support multiple palette animations. That said though, the included Deluxe Paint 5 animation player does support it. The last option which I went with was to use another of the Amiga's special modes, Extra Halfbrite. This is similar in idea to the Sega Mega Drive or Genesis's highlight and shadow mode, but a little bit more simple. Instead of 3 options per pixel, actual colour, highlight or shadow, as it is on the Genesis or Mega Drive, Extra Halfbrite essentially means that a pixel is either its exact colour register value or half the brightness of that colour register value. This is an example of an Extra Halfbrite image that I created 2 years ago of Lama Nakane from Yumiko Takahashi's Lama 1/2 manga. This in theory would work well, and the idea was that as the streetlight passed over the top of the windshield or windscreen, depending on which side of the pond you want to basically base your English off of. Can you say off of? Anyway, whatever. The light would reveal across the interior, and as the streetlight passed the side of the car, the shadow would begin to re-emerge. The cool thing about Extra Halfbrite shading is it's actually non-destructive, i.e. you can paint an extra half-bright area, but then reverse it back to normal with a right mouse click instead of a left mouse click. It's here that I'm sure I discovered a Deluxe Paint bug in fact. You can't Extra Halfbrite, for want of a better expression, with a right mouse click when your brush size is literally just 1 pixel in size. Instead it painted the chosen background pen colour. Only brushes bigger than 1 pixel had the correct right mouse button painting behaviour. I tried this in Dpaint 3, 4 and 5 and it all had the same behaviour. Maybe it's intended, but it does seem a little bit frustrating. Anyway, after working out the timing, which I won't go into in this video because obviously it's specific to this particular animation, and of course, as we're going to see, the result didn't really work out in the end. The end result was just, well, really meh. It's just too much. I much prefer a much more subtle effect. So, what to do? Well, to be honest, I'm not really that sure yet. I think I need to sit down and review what actually happens when animating these kinds of features and evaluate what is best to do. I think I'm going to do this by just watching a bunch of anime like Ghost in the Shell and maybe a bit of Akira, although there are less cars shown in that, but even Evangelion could be a good example because there's lots of scenes inside of Misato's Alpine A310, but essentially I need to observe what other animators have done to get a decent effect. So I am potentially thinking of using hand mode instead of painting a direct shadow with Extra Halfbrite. Maybe a shadow that just crosses the face periodically. As I noted, yes, I would lose fidelity, but actually the end result of all these bits and pieces that I'm going to be working on over the next, well, few years probably, actually I want to take advantage of the Amiga's sort of quirkiness when it comes to these things, because I actually do want it to look a little bit imperfect actually. I want that glitchy look, so I'd rather embrace the Amiga's limitations. Otherwise, really, why am I doing this on the Amiga? Why not do it in Aseprite on my Macintosh? That would just be the most obvious thing to do. With that, at least I have actual transparency, for example. Anyway, I digress. It really is good to experiment with things, so as it's only by doing this that I learn anything, and I don't think I'm really being too suggestive to say that it's the only way that any of us learn. We have to make mistakes to realise that actually that doesn't work. Doing this in Dpaint is a bit harder than using a modern package. In fact, I was just tangentially referring to that. You know, like in a modern package on a modern system, you have 24-bit palettes at your disposal, or in fact 32-bit palettes, because obviously you have that alpha transparency. It also clarifies why I don't always limit myself just to Amiga when it comes to pixel art, or indeed artwork in general. Limitations are fun, they breed creativity, and they also push me, but I enjoy using the older tools as well. But I would never want to make it a strict rule or make a rod for my back that I only use old stuff. Largely people don't care what you use to get a result, it's only the results that they like at the end of the day. So I guess in summary, I have a few ideas of what I'll do. I'll come back to this one soon. In the meantime, I've reshaded the highlights to the edge of Saki's hair as it's blowing in the breeze. My method for doing this was, as described in the previous video, part 4. I shade the initial single colour across all frames, so basically like the darkest part of the highlight, and check the result before moving on to the next colour, so this is uniformly applied across all frames with just that one colour, the shadow of the, if you can call it a shadow, the darkest part of the highlight. Next I move on to the next colour and repeat the same process. Only add that highlight colour, check it across all frames for uniformity and smoothness, and then move on to the next highlight shade. I do it this way because it's much more consistent working with a single colour rather than finishing it up each frame by frame, because that's where inconsistencies can creep in and it can end up looking a little bit janky. So I find that this is the best way to do it. So that's it for this video. I think the next time I look at some pixel art or animation, I want to work on another image. I have ideas in progress, so it'd be good to share a few of those with you. Also, it's fast approaching 2 years living in Japan, believe it or not. I do hope to share a few perspectives on my experience so far in Japan. Everything from the job, the lifestyle, the language barrier, the food and culture, as well as a deeper look into what it is to really live a life, I guess. Anyway, I do feel that I do have some fairly interesting from the heart points of view to share with you about how things have panned out. Lastly, I just want to very quickly mention that if you do enjoy what I do on YouTube, your support can actually be extended through things that are in the video description, namely Patreon and Coffee. One-off donations on Coffee go a long way, and likewise the $2 tier on Patreon is where things start there if you want to support me on a monthly basis. The way I look at it, those both methods basically help support me as an artist, because I don't make any money out of my artwork at the moment, and hopefully what I do here on YouTube is entertaining and interesting enough for you to feel like contributing to the ongoing project of me sharing artwork advice and so forth here on YouTube. It's not easy to make a living as an artist. Anyway, that's what I'm going to say on that. I don't want to labour the point if you aren't able to, because I know things are very tough. Your viewing is still very much appreciated. Anyway, that's all. I guess all remains for me to say is see you soon. Peace.